The stars were quiet, but not for long. Far beyond Earth's reach in the cold dark between planets, a fleet moved silently through space. It was made of sharp lines and glowing engines, unlike anything humans had ever built. These ships belonged to the Zaroon Dominion, an empire that had ruled the stars for centuries. They believed they knew everything there was to know about war, power, and control. Their sensors picked up something strange near one of their border worlds. Small ships, weak signals, no known markings. At first, the officers laughed. Maybe it was a lost colony or a broken probe drifting in silence. But then the readings changed. More ships appeared. Fast ones, aggressive ones. Commander Diel Virek, a tall man with silver eyes and a voice like thunder, ordered scouts to move in. He did not fear these unknowns. No one challenged the Zaroon. On Earth, things were different. Colonel Brandon Hayes sat in a command room deep under Colorado. His face was tired, but his mind was sharp. Beside him, Captain Lauren Field stared at the screen showing blurry images of alien ships. "They're real," she said. "Looks like it," Hayes replied. Humanity had only just begun to explore beyond the solar system. After decades of work, they launched their first deep space fleet, small, experimental, and full of hope. They called it the U.S. Space Defense Initiative. Most people still didn't believe in aliens. Now they had proof. "We need to talk." "To them," said President Ethan Cole on live television. "But we're ready if things go wrong." Things went wrong faster than anyone expected. A team of human scouts tried to make contact near Titan, one of Saturn's moons. They sent signals. They showed peaceful signs. They waited. Then the Zaran opened fire. 3 human ships exploded in seconds. Metal turned to fire. Lives ended in silence. Only one ship, the USS Kent E, survived. Badly damaged, it ran away, hiding behind asteroids and cutting all signals. For the Zaroon, it was a quick victory. Easy. Clean. But then, something happened they didn't expect. From the wreckage, the USS Kent fired back. Not with big weapons, not with strength, but with speed, surprise, pain. A small torpedo flew through the enemy line and hit one of the Zaran frigates. Systems failed. Alarms screamed. Panic spread. The humans were not what the Zaroon thought they would be, and for the first time in hundreds of years, the Zaroon felt something unfamiliar. Fear. The USS Kent was barely holding together. Smoke filled the halls, lights flickered, and alarms would not stop. Captain Lauren Fields moved fast through the damaged ship, checking on her crew. "Get damage reports," she shouted over the noise. "Engines are down to 40%, said a young officer named Jake Turner. "We lost half the weapons bay." Fields looked at the screen. The Zaran ships were still out there. Big, cold, silent now, as if waiting on. Earth panic was spreading. News of the attack had gone public. People watched live footage of President Ethan Cole speaking from the White House. "This is not the end," he said. "We will not run. We will defend our home." Colonel Brandon Hayes stood behind him, arms crossed. He knew they had been lucky to survive the first fight. Now they needed to prepare for what came next. Back in space, Commander Diel Virek studied the wreckage from his command deck. "They hit us," said one of his officers. Not hard, but it was unexpected. Virek frowned. They should have died like the others. His fleet had destroyed thousands of enemies before, weak ones, strong ones, clever ones. None had ever struck back so soon. He turned to his war council. "Prepare a full strike team. We finish this now." But things didn't go as planned. As the Zaran moved in, the USS Kent did something strange. It launched small drones, fast, loud, and full of explosives. They flew like bees, swarming the enemy ships. One drone hit a Zaroon scout vessel and blew it apart. Then more followed. Human fighters jumped from hiding spots behind asteroids and attacked with everything they had. They fired missiles, dropped mines, and even used old-style rockets just to cause chaos. The Zaroon ships tried to regroup, but the humans were everywhere. Quick, wild, unafraid. "They don't fight like anyone we've seen," said analyst Nira Solon, watching the battle unfold. They're not following any rules. Commander Virek clenched his fists. He had expected easy prey. Instead, he was facing something else entirely, something that refused to die, and for the first time in his long career, he felt something new. Doubt. The USS Kent was still alive, and so was the fight. The battle was not going the way the Zarun expected. What should have been a quick strike had turned into chaos. The USS Kent was still moving, still fighting, and worse, it was not alone. More human ships arrived. Small ones. Fast ones. They came from behind moons and out of asteroid fields like ghosts. Missiles flew through space, some missing, some hitting, hard. Explosions lit up the dark like angry stars. Commander Dial Virek watched from his command deck as one of his cruisers took a direct hit. Alarms screamed. Officers shouted. Smoke filled the air. "They are too many," said his first officer, eyes wide with fear. "We cannot control their movements." Virek's jaw tightened. He had fought wars across half the galaxy. He had crushed entire worlds under his fleet. But these humans were different. They did not run. They did not stop. They attacked like wild animals, brave, stupid, and full of fire. On the USS Kent, Captain Lauren Fields gave orders fast. "Target that engine block. Launch drones now. Tell Reed we need that boarding team ready." Lieutenant Joshua Reed stood with his team near the back of the ship. They were soldiers, not just pilots or scientists. They wore armor, carried weapons, and had trained for this kind of fight. "We go in fast," Reed said. "No fear, no hesitation. We show them we're not just floating meat." His team nodded. Outside, the battle raged on. One human fighter crashed into a Zaran scout ship and exploded. Another dropped, mines behind it, trapping an enemy vessel in a deadly field. Then came the signal. "Now's your chance," said Fields over comms. "Move!" Reed and his team launched from the USS Kent in a small shuttle. They flew straight toward a damaged Zarun frigate. Its hull was cracked, systems failing, lights flickering. They landed hard. The moment the door opened, they stormed. Inside, guns fired. Shouts echoed down metal halls. Zarun soldiers tried to fight back, but they were confused. Scared. They had never seen anyone board their ships like this. After minutes of close combat, the humans won. Reed stood over a captured Zaran officer. The alien looked at him with wide eyes. "Why do you keep fighting?" the officer asked. Reed didn't answer right away. Then he said, "Because we don't know how to quit." He turned on a camera. The feed went live. Back on Earth, people watched in silence. This was not just a battle anymore. It was a message. Humans were not afraid, and they were only getting started. After the fight near Titan, the Zarun fleet pulled back. Commander Dial Virek stood alone on his command deck, looking at the stars. Behind him, officers argued. Reports came in fast. 3 ships destroyed, 2 more damaged beyond quick repair. Hundreds of soldiers were dead. It was the worst loss the Zaran had suffered in centuries. "They are not like the others," said analyst Nira Solon, her voice low. "They do not follow rules. They do not fear death." Virek did not answer. He watched the footage again. Humans fighting with wild eyes, jumping into danger, never backing down. Even when their ships burned, they kept coming. On Earth, the mood was different. People crowded in front of screens, watching the live feed from space. They saw the captured Zarun officer. They heard Lieutenant Joshua Reed say, "We don't know how to quit." The word spread fast. On news channels, in schools and bars and homes across the world, President Ethan Cole spoke that night. "We were attacked. We fought back. And now, the enemy knows who we are." Colonel Brandon Hayes stood beside him, arms crossed. He knew this was only the start. Other aliens might be watching. Waiting. Back in space, the Zaran War Council met. "This species is dangerous," one general said. "They act on emotion, not reason. They are unpredictable." Another added, "If we keep fighting, we may win. But we will lose more than we can afford." Nira Solon looked at her reports again. She saw something deeper than just strength. The humans worked together, trusted each other, and believed in something bigger than themselves. They fight for home, she said. For family, for survival. That makes them stronger than weapons. Commander Virek finally spoke. We must learn more before we strike again. But learning would not come easy. The USS Kent and its crew were already preparing for what came next. Captain Lauren Fields trained her team for more boarding missions. Engineers fixed what they could. Morale was high. On board, Jake Turner, the young officer, looked out a window at the stars. You think they'll come back? He asked. Fields didn't look away. Yeah, she said. But next time we'll be ready. And far away, in the dark between planets, the Zaroon watched. They had thought they were the strongest. Now they were not so sure. The stars were quiet again, but not for long. After their first losses, the Zaroon did not run. They watched. They learned. Commander Diel Virek studied every second of the last battle. He saw the speed of the human ships, the way they used hiding spots, and how they never stopped moving. They fight like insects, one officer said. Hard to hit, harder to kill, Virek agreed. And now, he had a plan. Far from Earth, near the edge of the Proxima Centauri system, the Zaroon set a trap. They sent a small fleet, just enough to look weak. They made it seem like they were scouting. In truth, dozens of hidden ships waited behind, asteroids and dark planets ready to strike. But the humans were watching too. Colonel Brandon Hayes sat in a command room under Colorado. His face was tired, but his eyes were sharp. This feels like bait, he said. Captain Lauren Fields stood beside him, looking at the screen. Maybe, she said, but we can't ignore it. President Ethan Cole gave the order. A team of human ships led by the USS Kent would go in and find out the truth. We don't attack unless they do, Cole said. But if they want war, we're ready. When the US Kent arrived, everything seemed calm. Then the Zaroon struck. Ships came from nowhere. Beams of fire cut through space. Missiles flew like rain. The humans barely had time to react. Fields shouted orders. Evasive maneuvers. Launch drones. Small machines shot from the USS Kent, flying fast and loud. Some dropped mines. Others acted as decoys, drawing enemy fire away from real targets. Lieutenant Joshua Reed and his team got ready. We're going in, he told his soldiers. You all know the plan. His shuttle launched into the chaos. They flew toward a damaged Zaroon cruiser, one that looked easy to board. They landed hard. Guns fired, alarms screamed, smoke filled the halls. The Zaroon inside fought back, but the humans were faster, louder, and wilder. Minutes later, the ship was theirs. Reed stood over a captured officer. Why are you doing this? The alien asked. Reed turned on a camera. The world was watching. Because we don't stop, he said. And with those words, the message was clear. Humans were not just surviving, they were winning. The Zaroon Council met in silence. Commander Diel Virek stood before the High Command, his face cold, but his mind full of worry. Behind him, a large screen showed footage from the latest battle. Ships burning, soldiers dying, and humans storming through enemy lines like ghosts with fire in their eyes. We lost 6 ships, said General Cale Ronak, one of the oldest warriors in the fleet. More than 1,000 lives. For what? No one answered. Analyst Nira Solon stepped forward. She had studied every move the humans made. She saw patterns not just in their weapons, but in their minds. They do not fight. Like us, she said. They do not care about rules of war. They do not stop when they are hurt. They believe in something we don't understand. General Ronak frowned. And what is that? She looked at the footage again. A human soldier pulling a wounded comrade out of a burning ship. Another waving a broken flag in space. People cheering on Earth even as bombs fell. Hope. She said a quiet word. But it shook the room. Commander Virek turned to face the council. We must decide, he said. Do we keep fighting? Or do we pull back before we lose more than we can afford? One by one, the leaders spoke. They are too wild, said Admiral Selamore. We cannot predict them. Our empire has never faced a species like this, said Minister Varric. They are not just strong. They are many, and they will not stop. General Ronak sighed. If we keep this war going, we may win, but we may not survive it. In the end, the decision was made. A message was sent across the fleet. Halt all. Attacks. Prepare for diplomatic contact. It was not an easy order. Pride burned in the hearts of many Zaran soldiers, but fear burned brighter. Far away, on Earth, the message arrived. Colonel Brandon Hayes read it first. They want to talk, he said. Captain Lauren Fields looked up from her seat. About what? She asked. He smiled slightly. Peace. But neither of them believed it would be that simple. The humans had shown the Zaran what they were made of. And now, the stars knew. Humans did not run. They fought. And sometimes, just sometimes, they won. The message spread fast across the Zaroon fleet. Halt all attacks. Prepare for diplomatic contact. It was the first time in centuries that the Empire had chosen to step back instead of forward. Many officers read the order in silence. Some were relieved. Others were angry. Commander Dale Virek stood alone on his command deck, looking at the stars. He thought of the humans, how they fought, how they never gave up, how they turned every battle into something more than just winning. He thought of the footage from the captured ship, the human soldier standing tall. The words he said, "We don't stop." Virek knew it was true. On Earth, the message was received with mixed feelings. Colonel Brandon Hayes sat in the war room under Colorado, reading the translated text again. They want peace, he said. Captain Lauren Fields leaned back in her chair. Or they want time to regroup, she replied. President Ethan Cole spoke on live television that night. The Zaran have asked to talk. We will listen. But we are not naive. We stay ready. Across the world, people watched. Some cheered, others worried. The war had been short, but it left scars. In space, the USS Kent floated near a silent asteroid belt. Repairs were still underway. Bodies had been buried in the cold dark. Lieutenant Joshua Reed stood by a window looking out. "Do you think they'll come back?" asked Jake Turner, the young officer who had survived since the first fight. Reed didn't look away from the stars. "Maybe," he said. "But so will we." Back in the Zaran capital, the council made their final decision. A formal retreat was issued. No more ships would be sent. No more attacks would be made. "This species is not one to be conquered," wrote Minister Varric in the official report. "They are too many, too wild, too willing to die." News of the retreat spread quickly through other alien empires. Whispers passed between traders, scouts, and explorers. Don't mess with the humans. And so, the Zaroon left, not in defeat, but in fear. On Earth, the stars looked different now. They weren't just faraway lights anymore. They were watching, and humanity was ready.